Hey, thank you, everybody. Thanks for the David Bowie. That's for our guest today. And thank you, Kurt, for playing that. And welcome, everybody, to Deborah Kobylt Live. In studio with me today, we have Michel Shane. And I'm honored to have you in studio with us.
Thanks
with our
so much.
enormous... See, we have a large studio audience for you. They're on the other side of the camera, and they're all clapping for you. Thank you for being here. You are a producer, philanthropist, and perhaps most importantly, you're chairman of the Emily Shane Foundation. And we're going to spend the next so many minutes talking about that, about the Emily Shane Foundation, and describing how you became chairman of the Emily Shane Foundation. And for those of you who don't know, we'll get into that story. Before that, I just want to briefly touch on something I did last night. I know that you're involved in a lot of philanthropic sorts of things. And last night we did something called, we were with the Stop Poaching Now, and we were, do you have any pictures of that? Damian Manger, we honored him for all of the work that he's doing to stop poaching. Now, I know a lot of people will say there's so many organizations to get involved with, but this is something that's so important because the poaching industry, I mean, I'm telling you, we are going to end up with no animals if we don't care enough to stop the poaching. And this is organized crime, essentially, that's happening around the world that's killing these animals. So I want to give a shout-out to Damien, and I want to give a shout-out to Heidi Jo Markle. She's the one who's in charge of Stop Poaching Now. It was a great event, and we were just honored to be a part of it. So thanks very much. It was actually a great evening. So... are you involved in anything, sort of like that? I know that you're involved in all kinds of different things.
I love animals.
Yeah.
I have a couple dogs. I've been to Africa a number of times. And
where were you in Africa?
I was both in Kenya and South Africa and did safaris, and I'll never step in a zoo again.
I know, but zoos have a role, at least, let's say the one in San Diego, right? At least they're roaming around somewhat, but, people didn't know, or they knew and they just kept us in the dark, right? Like, Look at the circus, look what they did. And who didn't love to go to the circus and watch the tigers and lions jumping through hoops, right? And the elephants going up on their hind legs, which is, when you think about it, I can't even believe that we would sit there and cheer that stuff.
Well, it's all about growth, right?
It's all about growth. It really is. But, zoos teach kids about animals. So hopefully even zoos are coming along and changing the way they do things. So it was a great event, and I was just honored to be a part of that. So thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it. I don't think I could do your story justice. So would you please tell us how you became... chairman of the Emily Shane Foundation, named after your youngest daughter. You have 3 daughters, and Emily is your youngest daughter. So would you tell us a little bit about what happened?
Well, it's unfortunate and something I wouldn't wish on anyone in the world. There's no one I hate enough to wish it upon.
Isn't that true? On
April 3rd, in 2010, my youngest daughter, Emily, was... murdered by a suicidal driver on PCH. She was, look, we all love our children. All our children are very unique, and they're very special. And as a parent, you see your children in one light, and you really never get to see them in the real world. They go to play with friends, and the parents call you up. Oh, what a wonderful child. They can come back anytime. And you don't know if they're actually being polite.
Okay, when I get that, I'm like, wait, was my kid over there? I mean... mine? So, no, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, but Emily was murdered, and she was a very kind, empathetic child. She never wanted to see anyone in pain, and being a teenager, especially, 12, 13, in school, very cliquey, she wasn't part of that. She really hated to see people alone. So if you were a child at lunch... she would, and you were sitting alone, she would come over and have you join her group.
That breaks my heart because I'm like that. I don't like to see people alone. I also don't like to be alone. And I think when people are that way, they probably don't like to be alone either.
Right.
Because they know how that feels in their heart. And it's such a painful place to be that they don't want anybody else to feel that either. So
my wife said that she used to have to drive around with extra, protein bars because if she saw homeless people, she'd want to give them something. So she'd have it in the car. So she was a very, very empathetic child. And one of her good friends said to me, what was really unique about her is she had 30 best friends because all her friends felt that they were her best friends.
Because she made them feel that way.
That's right, exactly. So we lost her. It was
April 3rd.
Yeah, it was horrific. Because not only did we lose her, we had to spend 2 years in court for her murder trial.
I know she was walking home from a friend's house.
That's right.
She was going to meet you.
That's right. I was 90 seconds behind the accident.
Oh.
I saw the gentleman driving down PCH.
You saw her kill her.
I saw her kill her before she hit him. Before he hit her, excuse me.
So you saw this lunatic driving down the road, and you're probably thinking to yourself, where's he going, right?
No, I said, look, I said to myself, look at this crazy guy. Oh, my God.
Oh.
Never, thinking anything about it. And then drove by the accident site, saw his car turned over, saw a bunch of people getting out of one woman getting out of a white truck and a bunch of other people running to the side. There was like a hill, running to the top of the hill. And in my mind, very quickly, I said, well, Emily was supposed to be there.
Oh.
But, you never think stuff like that happens to you. And so I went to where I was supposed to meet her, and she wasn't there. And I texted my wife, and I said, can you call the friend's house and see if she's left? If not, I'll pick her up there. And she texted me back.
But you weren't thinking of the accident at that time?
Not at all.
Oh, my God.
And then my wife called me and said, there's a sheriff on the phone. There's been an accident. And I said, I'm right here. I'll go over there. Don't let them do anything. And I get over there, and they say to me, she's been in an accident. I say, well, what happened? Is she all right? And the guy won't tell me what's going on. So he says, you got to get in your car, and you've got to drive to UCLA Children's Hospital because they're going to airlift her out there. So I said, no, I'm not doing that. It's a Saturday afternoon. It's 5:30.
I'm on that helicopter.
I'm in Malibu. Exactly. I'm in
I
Malibu.
Beat the shit out of them to get on that helicopter.
He said to me, let me check. And he said, okay, we can do that. Because I said, look, she's 13 years old. You're going to need permissions. You're going to take her in, and then you're going to wait for me to get there? That makes no sense. We go down to Zuma Beach where they have the evacuation area where the helicopters can land, and she's in one of the ambulance trucks, and the sheriff knocks on the door, and the EMT just waves him off. And after when he came out, he told me that she was dead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
We did talk about this a little bit, and I said, "Oh
Listen,
my goodness, how can you?" And
it's part of
the therapy. It's part of just your life.
It would be a disservice to her and to me
and other people
to ignore what actually happened. Mm-hmm. So, and look, I miss her every day. I miss her every moment.
She's here now.
Of course she is. But you learn to adapt. I won't say you learn to live with it because there's no living with it. But you learn to adapt to the new reality. And that's what we've done. So that night, I don't even know how I did it. I drove home to my house.
How do you make that call to your wife? Oh, my God.
I called my wife when I found out. Obviously, I was crying. And she thought it was Emily calling her. I had to tell her. And then we came home. It's easier to talk about than it was a year ago and 5 years ago. But obviously, it's someone that I brought into the world. What I say is I created 3 hearts and I lost one. So how can mine always be whole?
For her.
For her, exactly.
I can't imagine. The people in this room can't imagine, and the people watching can't imagine. But you've had to go through this. For all those people who can't, and for the people who are going through this.
Right, exactly.
Because you're not alone in this. My God, I don't know.
No, it's fine. I'm fine.
Because remember that. You know that.
No,
and I know all the people.
Everybody's got a story, and everybody's got something going on in their lives. Some horrific, some worse than mine. I mean, as I was going to the funeral, a very close friend of mine called me and said, it could be worse. And I said to him, how could it be worse? He said, what if your daughter had been kidnapped and you didn't know if she was alive or dead? And I turned to him and said, you know what? That would be worse. Because at least I had a technical closure. I mean, she was She died. We buried her. But what made it so the first thing I want to tell you is that night I came up with the idea of doing a Pass It Forward campaign.
That night.
That night.
So that's the kind of people you are. You go through such sorrow, such grief, such, my God, how do I even live till tomorrow? And already you're thinking of how you can help the next guy and next girl and next family.
And keep her memory alive.
Keep her memory alive and keep your family together, because as we well know, this is the kind of thing that can tear a family apart. I told you on the phone, we have very close friends. They were on their way to Mammoth. Dad and friend was in one car right behind his son. The son was in the car right in front of him, 18, I think he was. And the 15-year-old brother was, fell asleep in the back seat of the car. The 18-year-old fell asleep, car rolled over, 15-year-old went flying out. That was it. And it was so hard on their family, as you can imagine.
Sure.
They're a great, great family and great people that they couldn't hold it together as a family.
More than 50% of families that lose children get divorced or fall apart. We're fortunate because there was no blame game. There was no, it's your fault, you made her do that, it was my fault, you told her to sleep over, whatever. There was none of that. It was truly...
If there was anything like that, then it would be gone, because
That's
you
right.
can't live that way.
No, you can't. I mean,
that would be it.
Well, you blame the other person, and it's not like, someone... a minor blame. It's a major blame, and every time you're looking at that person, you're thinking of it. We didn't have any of that. I mean, I'm very fortunate, knock on wood, I've been married 30 years. Same person. We still laugh every day, and and this has brought our whole family much closer, because you take for granted those moments in life, those little things like, oh, do I really have to go see my third kid in a play at school? I mean, I've done it so many times. But you know what? The last time I went to see her was the last time I saw her performing. And she was a dancer. She was a creative. She loved to dance. My wife would say that she'd think she'd be studying. She'd come out and say, Mom, look at these new steps I created. She was a creative person and totally loved that.
You must see, though, a lot of her and your other daughters,
Of course.
all of, because they're siblings. And I'm sure that so often that when one of your other daughters does something or even gives a little look, you think, oh, my goodness, there's Emily, right? That
absolutely.
Probably must be there all the time. But she is 21 today, would be 21 today if she were physically here.
Correct.
She was 13 when this happened.
Yeah.
In your
21
mind,
this year.
21 this year. Is in your mind, is she 21 or always 13?
Always 13.
Always 13.
Always
In a
13.
way, that's something very special to hold on to her as 13.
Right.
Do you look at it that way?
What's
If
really...
I can, I don't know. I
don't know if I look at it that way. What's really difficult is I'm still in touch with a number of her very close friends.
That's wonderful.
And, you see these beautiful, wonderful young adults, and all it makes me think of is, what would she have been like? Here are her close friends who are in their last year or third year of college or off doing stuff, and they're lovely people. And she had a real knack for picking good people. So these good people are still around.
As you said about her, she didn't like to leave people alone. So she probably was such a people person that she was always talking to people, and they were naturally gravitated toward her.
Right.
She had a large circle. Do you mind if I ask about, before we get into the foundation, and we have a little clip too from the foundation.
Great.
You said that she was murdered.
Yes.
May I ask you about this guy?
Sure.
Didn't he lose his job and he was despondent? And what was he doing? He was on a suicide mission or just insane?
So this is the way I see it. And, it's up for discussion, but this is my frame of reference. I see it as an angry child. Like when you have a young child and they go, I hate you, and
then they run out
I'm
the
running
door.
away. And, and the funny story is when our kids ever said that, or when I was a kid and said that, my parents would say, okay, I'm packing a bag for you, kind of bring it in reality. You're running away to where? So that's what
And they'd say, see ya. I'd be like, wait a minute, you're not supposed to watch me go out the door. But okay, so go ahead.
So he lost his job. His girlfriend was breaking up with him. He was despondent. He wrote a suicide note from the top of Topanga to Heathercliff.
We're talking Malibu for those people who aren't
Right.
familiar with California. but
Right.
okay.
So from the top of Topanga to Heathercliff, it's not very far, but it's 30 minutes in driving. 6 911 calls of people calling to say how he was driving and how dangerous he was driving. And if you know Topanga, I mean, it's this huge canyon.
Very hilly.
Right.
I'm
I mean, you
stunned
could-
that people aren't going off there on a daily basis driving normally. It can be foggy, right? It
Right.
can be slippery. Yeah, and if this nut is going at a
If
certain
you're going to
speed,
kill yourself, wouldn't you go off Topanga?
yeah.
So, or go straight down Topanga into the Pacific Ocean. I mean, it just ends there. So I think he was an angry child. He was indulged and decided he was going to kill himself. And to kill himself, he saw this young girl from the back walking and decided that he should take her with him. And he aimed his car at her, hit her. She went flying 50 feet in the air, hit a metal sign, and landed in this field. His car went up the beam, turned over a little bit. He didn't have a scratch on him. And
What was his defense?
his defense was that he was autistic. Now, he may be autistic or he may be slightly autistic.
That's a
but
leap. That's a leap.
He went to regular school, and his autism was only discovered when he was 21. He was 26, I think, when he hit Emily. And he did some stuff that, look, we can all have accidents. And if you own up to your accident or, oh, my God, it didn't mean to happen. Stuff can happen
But he
on the
never
road.
did that.
Never owned
Did he
it.
ever apologize?
No,
Did he ever
only
look at you and apologize?
Slightly just before the sentencing, but he didn't own it.
Because he had to do that.
Right.
Somebody
So-
said, do it because, this is your chance.
Well, and not only that, we had to go through 2 trials because the first trial was a hung jury. And we insisted on going through it again. So for 2 years, we literally pre-trial, trial, pre-trial, trial, relived her death. So not only did we lose her on April 3rd, we didn't have closure till February of 2 years later.
What did this do also to your other 2 daughters? Because
very hard.
you and your wife are adults. That's tough enough. But the daughters, I can't imagine.
Listen, they lost their baby sister.
Yeah.
It was extremely difficult. It took my middle daughter a good 5 years to feel better. I won't say normal, but feel better. And my oldest daughter was in her second year of college, and she went back to school because it was just too difficult to be at home. And I think she did 1 course, but I was fine with that. It didn't matter. It was whatever.
Your family had gone through something so traumatic. What matters? The course. Come on.
Right. So, and she graduated on time. So she made it all up. And I'm very proud of my girls. My middle daughter works with me. My oldest daughter, I'm trying to reel
Wrangle her in.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about, you said that night
Yeah.
you started to think, okay, we got to make some kind of sense of this horrible thing, horrible tragedy, so we can live on with this. So you wanted to pay it forward. So
Pass it forward. No money.
No pay it forward. Okay, that's a good one. No pay it forward. Pass it forward.
Right. So the idea was you do a good deed for someone and expect nothing in return.
So what did you do? You sat around the table and said, okay, let's find a way to pass this horrible thing forward.
No, what I did was the media had called me because Emily was one of the youngest people to be killed in PCH in the last decade.
What do they call PCH? Blood?
I tagged that. Blood Alley.
Oh, you tagged it Blood Alley.
Blood
Well,
Alley.
you know what? I said to my friend, I think they call it Blood Alley because it should be called Blood Alley.
Yeah.
And I'm petrified driving on that road. I really am. People are parked on the shoulder. They're coming out of the car with their little kids in their hand. I'm thinking, oh, my God, right? It's very dangerous. It's windy. At any moment, it just stops dead.
Yeah, we're doing a documentary on it.
I know because
Yeah.
I read about that and you were telling me about it. So I want to hear
Yeah.
about that as well.
So the pass
okay.
it forward. So the media called me and they wanted to shoot the funeral. So my initial gut reaction was no, that's out there. Don't want to do that. But then I turned and I said, you know what? If you'll promote our pass it forward, I'll let you put one camera in the in the funeral, and they agreed. And that's
Were they
when
respectful?
Oh, completely.
Sometimes there's nothing worse than covering something like this. And as a reporter, because I've covered enough of these, you think, oh, God, please. Because you don't want to infringe.
Right.
Reporters really do have a heart, and you don't want to infringe on someone's grief. So I'm glad to hear that. That's one of the hardest things to cover that on the other end, because you want to give people their respect and their space. So, okay, so you allowed them in there.
So I came up with, and it's a running joke in our family, with the pass it forward, and I decided that we had to do 100 million deeds, good deeds.
100 million good deeds. In other words, you'll spend your
Change
whole
the
life
world.
doing this one.
Change the world.
So one step at a time. What is the Emily Shane Foundation about? So what does it mean? Now, I know we have a clip of it as well, but I'll have you describe it first. Then we'll go to the clip.
So the Emily Shane Foundation is, so Emily struggled in middle school. She had a processing issue, which she inherited from me. She learned differently, being a creative. So we had tutors and we had teachers, former teachers, and all that. And my wife was trying to figure out what she could do to, to create this foundation. I mean, it is all her. She works
Ellen.
18
Beautiful
hours
woman.
a day,
Here.
all the time. She's completely focused on this. So what we do is we take university students, some of them on work study, some of them we pay, to mentor kids who are in middle school, so between 10 and 14 years old. They meet once or twice a week for an hour to an hour and a half, and they help the child get organized. They help them work on the programs and the courses that they're not doing well in. And the only cost to the child is they have to pass it forward.
The middle schooler.
That's right.
So what does that mean? Because I know if I said to my kid, you got to pass this forward, they'd be like, to who? What do I do? Do you help them even figure that out?
So the mentor and them post it every day every day they have their class or their meeting on our website. And it can be the littlest thing, like I helped my mom do the dishes. I gave my friend half my lunch. You're dealing with kids that are 10 to 14. They're not changing the world.
Right.
But we are changing the world because each child has to do 65 good deeds during the term of the school year. And 65 good deeds
That's hard.
changes your outlook to the world. And if you ask these children, they are constantly thinking about how they can help for somebody else.
Can they repeat it? Can they give 10 people a lunch on 10 different days?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. We're not tying it into it being something different. We're tying it into you're getting something, give something to someone else. And there goes the term pass it forward.
How do you match up these college kids with these middle schoolers? That's a task right there. Like this has got to be really tightly done.
Yes. So we work very closely with the Boys and Girls Club. Okay. The Y in my wife would be better at this. The Y right by the airport. What's that area called?
Westminster, Inglewood.
No, not Inglewood. Anyways,
but that's okay because it's in the LA area. So this is based in the LA area.
Yeah. So we're in Oxnard, we're in Ventura, we're in Santa Monica, we're in Malibu, we're in South LA. We're in 12 sites right now. Last year we helped 110 children. We started with 3 in Malibu in our pilot program.
So you partner up with the schools.
So the schools let us know who's failing or who's struggling. Mm-hmm. And most of them are on subsidized lunch because it's about kids whose parents can't afford to pay for a tutor or a mentor. Mm-hmm. And the school helps us identify who should be in our program.
Do you get to meet these kids? Because every time you see a kid and you see that you've helped somebody because of Shane, because of Emily, do you feel like, I don't know, I can't imagine how that fills up your heart, right? I mean,
it's what keeps Ellen going. She meets all
Ellen,
these,
his wife, yeah.
Yeah, she meets these children all the time. She does an orientation for them. She tells the story of Emily so that they know why and who is their benefactor and why this is happening. And my big thing is I can't wait till someone who's 25 or 28 or much older turns around and said, it was the Emily Shane Foundation that helped me get to where I am today.
That is amazing. Can we just watch a
Sure,
little clip
absolutely.
of what you've got about the Emily Shane Foundation?
I've tried several tutoring or mentoring programs before, and but I've seen a big difference with the C program.
The C has helped me with the understanding better and techniques.
It helped me to believe that I can do something. Before I didn't believe that, oh, I can't do this problem, but now I actually think I can. I went from a D to an A.
It's how effective and how powerful the relationship between the mentor and the student.
Sometimes I don't get the problem, and she's really patient, and she walks me through it, so I understand it.
She's made my grades a lot better. Before I was a really bad student, 2s, 3s, everywhere. I was known as the troublemaker in my class, but since I joined this, 4s, 5s. I'm a really good student now.
They've been doing so much better since being in the program. They're more confident, their grades have improved, and they just love it. They look forward to Mondays and Wednesday nights so they can meet their mentor.
Mostly in math I needed help because I had an F and I used to talk a lot, and now I have a B in math. And science I had a little hard time with that. I had a C, and now I have an A.
Which means in 2 months, his foundation of how to learn is completely changed. This is an individual who may not even have the opportunity, the capability of attending college. And after 1 semester in this program, we could have completely turned this around.
We have really enjoyed the program. I have seen a huge difference in Jared's behavior and academic success.
At first, I had been failing at least 3 classes. Then she had taught me the way of actually succeeding, and I actually fell into the habit of trying to succeed. Now those 3 classes I had are now B's and A's.
Well, my tutor really helps me understand, if I don't get it, I just say, I don't get it, and she'll explain it to me. It's not embarrassing to say, I just don't get it.
I say this program has, in a sense, saved my son's future of him going into middle school.
I think it has something to do with the fact that the mentors bring out something else.
For good deeds, they're like a special thing. If you do it, then you're guaranteed to get one back.
So since she started this program, she just got an award for Most Improved Student in all subjects because of your tutoring help.
I'm very, very grateful. In behalf of my family, thank you so much.
1, it's amazing. 2, I love it. 3, it really helps you with your grammar and any academic problems that you have in school. 4, I used to be flunking this grade, math, but now I'm passing. 5, I will not pass this grade. 6, I'm done.
So for people seeing this and they want to donate, it's Emily Shane, SHANE.org.
Correct.
Okay, and any amount. I think that's wonderful. How do you raise funds for this? Just by getting the word out like this?
We do a lot of grants. We do 2 fundraisers a year, and we beg as much as we can.
Let's talk a little bit about the industry that you work in, because Lord knows that you're connected enough, and I'm sure, I can't even imagine the outpouring when this happened. You were involved with perhaps one of my favorite films of all time, Catch Me If You Can, right?
Yes.
What was your role in that?
I created it. I bought the rights to the book. Actually bought the book because I didn't know different in 1990.
That I must have seen that 25 times. I'll tell you why. I happen to know someone a little bit like that in my life. And remember I told you that on the phone? At the moment, he's in Canada, is staying in Canada, and will probably always be in Canada because they never really could catch him. And he ended up on the run, and he stayed there. And I think if he ever came on this side of the border, I think he may never see the light of day again. So I found that, and he was very clever, like this guy was in the movie.
Well, you have to be charismatic.
You have to be.
And what Frank Abagnale told me when we first met was to be able to to be a good con man, everyone has to love you, because if they scratch the surface, the con falls apart.
Yeah, but he was amazing in that movie.
Oh, yes.
All the things that to be a good con man and to be charismatic is one thing, but the stuff that he thought about everything.
Well, he has a photographic memory. That doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt either, and he just used it sort of for the wrong side until somebody grabbed a hold of him, and then he used it for for the right side.
Correct.
Are you still in touch with him?
No, I haven't spoken to him, I guess, since the film came out. I mean,
Really?
we spent 10 years trying to put it together. And, well, you know, life goes on.
Life does go on. But I often wonder about him as the real guy. Does he, you know, because he's doing work with what the
FBI.
The FBI, does he still sometimes want to go on the other side? Because that little part of you that's still a criminal, I imagine, always just sort of wants to get on that side again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think he gets his rush now by figuring it out, you know, rather than doing it.
Yeah.
This guy did this. Oh, that's how he did it.
When did you do that film? When did that
It came out in 2002.
2002. So are you in touch with some of the cast members from there? I can't imagine what they must have felt like when they heard about Emily.
Not so much.
Not so much.
Not so much.
That one surprises me, you know, for all the good work that a lot of those folks are out there doing and talking about. I would
I
imagine.
bumped into Tom Hanks a whole bunch of times, and he's a lovely man, and every time we do see each other, we talk. But
and Leonardo?
No, not really.
Interesting. I would have thought that they would have had some kind of hand in helping with Emily and Emily Shane Foundation. Have you reached out to them, and or you're just hoping people sort of come to you?
I don't want to, talk badly about people.
No, I don't either. Of course not. You know, people get busy, they get
Right,
involved.
exactly.
Who knows what they're involved with, and the charities are involved with. That's another thing.
Leo's very much involved in helping the planet and environmental concerns.
And he's doing a lot of good work. And,
Exactly.
And Hanks has his stuff that he's working on as well. Absolutely.
You know, everyone's got their thing. And as long as people are giving back, who cares who they're giving back to?
I agree. But I mean, you know, you've got quite a well in this town. And I imagine that people have come out. There's been an outpouring to help you. Friends, at least in the community, people you've worked with.
Well, you know, as I said. Yeah.
And I mean, it took my heart away when I read about this. I thought, oh my God, you know, even though it's happened a while ago, you're still working hard on the foundation. And I thought any little bit I could do to give back.
Well, we're really at a very interesting place with the foundation because we either need to go to the next level.
And what would that be?
We just need to raise real money.
Mm-hmm.
Because
what are you looking to raise? I mean, there's got to be a way to, yeah.
Ideally. If we could raise, I don't know, $500,000, we could expand through probably another couple hundred schools in L.A. I mean, right now my wife works pro bono. Everybody's a volunteer within the organization. All the money goes to getting the kids into the program because it costs between $800 and $1,000 a year per child.
Mm-hmm.
And it's less, obviously, when the mentors are on work study because then we split their salary with the school. And we pay well because we want them to be working with us rather than flipping burgers or doing something else. And the most interesting thing is that you think the benefit is only to the child. It's actually extraordinary for the mentor because
incredible. They know what they're doing.
When's the last time a 20-something-year-old hung out with a 12-year-old that they weren't related to? Yeah. It creates a real bond. It's almost like a big brother and big sister type relationship. And they stay in touch.
Now, your wife, she's getting further involved, not just with the foundation, but also with grief counseling.
Yes.
Isn't that correct? Because,
that is.
Again, you and I talked a little bit about that on the phone. I mean, people process grief differently, no matter who you are, at different times. You know, I know that I've buried quite a few family members in the past few years, and with each one, I was like, nope, it's going to be okay. Or, you know, they're older, and I know it was an accident, but it's fine. They're older, and that's the way it is. And as time went by, it became harder and harder and harder for me. And to this day, it's actually harder. And I find that my grief, for example, is much, much, much deeper today than it was a couple of years ago when I was just getting everything done. And I think that is so important to help people through their grief because it hits people at different times. So,
well, what better counselor than a mother who lost a child and is there and can laugh today, you know? That gives her all the credentials she needs. And she's done some courses so that she's credentialed. But she really wants to do that. And she's actively pursuing.
You know, there's some grief support places that they kind of cut you off after a couple of years. They feel like, you know, you should be done now. And I was really surprised at that because I think grief sort of pops up at different stages in your life, don't you think?
Right, absolutely.
Because at least, I don't know how you were. It seems like you became immediately proactive. Was there ever a time that you know, down the road where you thought, oh my gosh, I need to stop, where it hit you harder or you just kept going?
No, it hit me all the time. I mean, what I did was my face to the world was always with a smile, because what I didn't want to do was ruin my family, have Emily's death destroy the lives of my daughters, and then destroy the life of with my wife. So I became the rock, and when I was on my own, I would grieve.
I will tell you that was such a huge service that you've done to your wife and your 3 daughters, because without that rock, a lot does crumble. Yeah. It really does. And I was a rock for a while, and then I started to crumble. You know, I'm the mom of a family, and I pulled it back together because I thought, no, I can't do this. You know, if I start to crumble, everything else will crumble around me. But that's why grief support is so important, because it does hit different people at different times. You may not be sort of the same that you were a couple years back, in which case that's okay. People need to understand and give you a little space.
Well, you need someone to talk to who's not going to judge you, who's going to listen to you and help you find solutions, so that you can take your grief and not make it destroy you or make you angry or make you sad all the time, and channel it in a way that you can live with it.
Yeah, for me, I know people said, oh, just keep yourself busy. So the more I kept myself busy, it was just burying it. And that really wasn't the answer. I know, at least for me. Some people, perhaps. Everyone has a different personality. For me, it was just maybe taking pause and just listening and maybe being a little quiet. See, everyone just has a different way of dealing with that. So now what is she doing? She's counseling people? Or?
She's starting to. She's very busy with the foundation, but she wants to slowly find someone to run the foundation's day-to-day and move into doing grief support.
That's wonderful. So what are you working on next? Other projects other than 24/7 on the foundation? So
yes. No, I've got a number of big projects that we're
Can you tell us about them a little bit?
I will just give you a little teaser. One of them I can't talk about yet, but the other one we announced. We're doing a 26-part television series on Sun Tzu, The Art of War, based on the classic book.
Yes, and you spent time. Where did you spend time researching that? Yeah. That's
so
pretty incredible.
We're all set. We're just putting the Bible together. We're going to write all the scripts this year, and we'll start shooting next year, or pre-production next year.
That's incredible. A lot of research has gone into that.
Oh, it's a huge project.
How much time did you spend over in China working on that project?
I've been for the last 3 years back and forth.
How did you find the country and the people?
Very interesting. Very
interesting. How?
Well, it's, listen, we have a frame of reference and we behave one way because we've been brought up in this type of culture. They've been brought up basically in a completely different type of culture. So it's very interesting, the nuances and the differences in communication and in agreements and in trying to figure out what's what. And listen, there are studios that have made major deals in China and not gotten paid, and we've gotten paid. So we've been able to put it together.
Perhaps it was your personal interaction that you've had with the people.
Maybe,
right?
and listen, it's their hero. It's their George Washington. I mean, Sun Tzu, the book was, what most people don't know is Sun Tzu was 22 years old when he wrote that book in 525 BC, and it's still read today.
That is pretty spectacular. That sounds like a real passion of your heart.
It's never been done in the West. There's no feature film. There's no television series. It's never been done.
Seems like a great way to sort of build some relations, right?
Yeah.
In a way. So
think of it as a Chinese Game of Thrones.
A Chinese Game of Thrones. That's going to be incredible. How long to shoot?
Forever. 26 hours. So probably 18 to 24 months.
Oh, wow. So you're going to be spending a lot of time.
Hopefully be fluent.
Yeah, I would hope so. If not, you better have a really, really good interpreter right next to you.
Absolutely.
What else have you worked on that's been your favorite projects in this town? And if you could briefly tell us how you even got into it. Because you didn't start, you went to law school for a couple of years, right? And then you said, I don't want to do this.
Well,
like a lot of people. Yeah, at least you were smart enough to get out, right?
Well, I don't know if smart enough or just, I grew up in Montreal, suburb.
Hence Michel instead of Michael, which you probably get a lot. And I said, I have to phonetically spell it out because I'll look down and call you Michael. It's Michel.
It's Michel, yeah. I kind of fell into the business. I always was a kid that loved entertainment. I was curious about how people were entertained. What
did you watch? What did you listen to as a kid?
Oh, everything. I mean,
couple of favorites. I know a lot of people who would say they love listening to the late night comedians, the late night talk shows, because they had so many, actors.
Well, we all love Johnny Carson. I mean, he was the king of it all. But what I did is, like when I was in high school and grade school, we would have a project to do. I would ask the teacher if I could do it on how people were entertained. So like in ancient Rome and Queen Victoria's England. So I was always drawn to how do you entertain people?
Oh, the English teachers must have loved you. Yeah. That's a different take on what was going on,
right? Instead of the
history and English, you could just submit the same project, right?
I was a history buff also. So.
Yeah, so there you go. It's like one paper over here, one paper over here, you're done.
So in 1980-81, when I quit law school, and what I didn't know was I finished 2 years. What I didn't know was that the third year was basically a walk in the park.
I was going to say, couldn't you just stick it out and get the degree?
Well, no one told me. I thought in my young mind that if I graduated law school, I had to be a lawyer. So I said, okay, I'm not graduating. I had lost my dad when I was quite young. I was 18 years old. So I had no one to really say,
guide you.
You're being an idiot,
just get it done.
Get the degree
you're
and
on
then
your
go
own.
do it. But if I had waited the year, I probably would not have gotten into the film business. I probably would have done something else. So in 1980-81, I saw a new business developing. I saw the beginning of computers, and I saw the beginning of video. And I remember sitting at my mother's kitchen table and saying, I got to do one of these two things. And I wasn't real technically savvy, and I loved film.
This was back in Canada?
Yeah.
And what did Mom say? Oh, sure, leave law school and go figure that out?
My mom was a rock.
So she was cool, whatever you wanted to do?
No, my mom, when I called her and told her, I was in law school in Michigan. Yeah. When I called her and told her I was leaving law school, she says, whatever you want to do, that's fine with me.
You have to do that, otherwise your kid's going to be miserable.
Hung up the phone and cried for a week.
Who, Mom?
Mom. Yeah. Her best friend told me.
That's a mom. That's a good mom. A lot of moms would not do that.
Her best friend told me like 20 years later that that's what had happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
She had a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom, your mom.
Yeah. So I said, okay, I'm going to go into the video business. And I started reading all about it. I went to a trade show in Fort Lauderdale, which was the launch of MTV. And I'm waiting in line to register, and this woman comes up and says, does anyone know about video? And being the shy person I am, I said, yeah, what do you want to know? She says, can I interview you? I went, sure, little interview. So I got interviewed. I think she wrote for Variety or something like that. I got interviewed on the future of video, and she says, oh, this was such a great interview. My colleague interviewee didn't show up. Can he interview you? I went, sure, no problem. So I ended up.
They passed you around. You know how that goes. It's like, oh, interview him about it. So go ahead.
So I got on the local NBC station in Fort Lauderdale talking about the future of video. Went to the trade show the next day, and people said, oh, we saw you on the news.
You're that guy. You were on the news.
What is it you do? And I said, oh, I have video stores. I want to get into distribution. Who knows why I said it? That's what I said. I bought my first 6 movies, having no idea what I was doing.
What were they? Are you kidding me?
They were how-tos. Because
they were how-tos, right. I read about that. How-to movies, the how-to movies. But you were
smart. Well, not so smart, because how to play tennis with Bjorn Borg and how to play golf with Tom Palmer is great titles, but you can't really do it in your living room.
Right.
Didn't really think it out.
Before there was a Wii and all that other stuff, but yeah, I got you.
So the one title that did do very well was this soft-core adult movie called How to Make Love. And it was awful.
Talk about your how-tos. Wait a minute. Was it very, descriptive?
No, it was slight nudity.
How do you have something called How to Make Love? What do they do? Like draw pictures and just...
It was very tongue-in-cheek.
Oh.
But could not keep it on the shelf. That movie... paid for the other 5 movies.
It's in a name. I mean, the name alone, right? I mean, honey, I got to get you an anniversary gift. Oh, that looks good.
Exactly.
There you go. So you couldn't keep that on the shelves. And then what? You end up in Hollywood after that?
So then I literally did everything there was to do. I booked cinemas. I did foreign sales. I did acquisitions. You name it, I did it. And then in 1988, the Quebec government started a tax shelter program that allowed investors to put, for every $1 they put in a film, they got $1.66 write-off.
Oh.
So, needless to say, people were lining up to throw money in movies. And I read about it and said, okay, I'm going to become a producer. I became a producer, and I made a couple movies. And then in 1990, I bought the book, Catch Me If You Can. And in 96, we moved out here.
See how long it takes for something to happen, though?
Forever.
You know, I've been working on a few projects, and I have friends that say, it still didn't happen yet. And I said, I'm not dead yet, so no, I'm still going to work on it because I'm one of those passionate people, too. And I will just keep going until I really feel like it's got no legs at all. But if I really believe in something, I'm just going to keep going with it. It takes forever. How many years did you say to get that one off?
It took 12 years to get Catch Me If You Can.
This is what happens. And it was really, I'm telling you, one of my favorites. For people who haven't seen it, go watch it.
It plays all the time.
Yeah, I know. It's everywhere. And it really does. Right?
Yeah,
it's
like one of those films.
Well, anyway, so you're a busy guy. And I really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks so
I really
much.
do. You know, it's tough to do an interview like this because it's
emotional.
It's emotional, and I'm trying to hold it together, thinking, how do I hold it together? You know, but I appreciate you coming on and telling your story about your beautiful daughter, Emily, and your family, Ellen, and your two daughters. What are their names, your daughters?
So my oldest is Jerry, and my middle is Lee.
Jerry?
G-E-R-I.
Okay.
Lee, L-E-I-G-H.
And Emily.
And Emily.
And for those people who want to donate, please, 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 because we really need money to keep this going, right?
Absolutely.
It's not it's Emily Shane Foundation.
ShaneFoundation.org.
Emily Shane, S-H-A-N-E, Foundation.org. Any final words you want to say?
Actually, it's EmilyShane.org.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
but I thought,
EmilyShane.org.
there it is. It's right up there. Okay, EmilyShane.org. Okay,
Yeah.
it's the Emily Shane Foundation. Look, if people look it up, they'll
find it. Yeah,
they'll
absolutely.
figure it out. You know, any little amount does help because
anything.
And it's not paying it forward. It's
passing it forward.
Passing it forward.
Right.
That's what I'm going to be talking about today. Pass it forward. Anyway, thanks for joining us, everybody, today, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for being here for Deborah Kobylt Live. Bye-bye.